So, my family and I just are kind of in the recovery phase of getting over COVID. And I wanted to do this video because I don't know if it would be informational for someone, but I looked at the internet trying to find information for myself. So I am a little over 7 months pregnant right now, and I have a little 4-year-old that's not vaccinated, and my husband and I are vaccinated. I have 3 shots, so the full series, and he has 2. The reason he has 2 is because he had to get a Tdap shot, and he had to wait a month before he could get the booster, so he didn't have the booster. He was the first person that started showing symptoms which kind of looked like a sinus infection. So we all thought, oh, okay, it's summer, it's probably just sinuses. He has allergies anyways. Plus he vapes. So we thought, okay, it's just sinuses. And then the next day he showed a fever, basically. And so we have a bunch of COVID tests at our house, and it's disclaimer, this is not a political statement or anything like that. We were the people that followed all the rules. We listened to the CDC. We masked. We got vaccinated when we were supposed to. Washed our hands. Taught our kid to wash his hands. And, it's 30 nanometers. I have to remind myself it's 30 nanometers. And 2 years later, we ended up getting, I'm assuming, the Omicron strain of this virus. And I was frantic the first day. So he got the symptoms. I made him take the test. He took the test. It tested positive, bright red line. And everyone always says that those tests are inaccurate. No, they're very accurate, super accurate, bright red line. I took a test. My kid took the test. Nothing. So a day later, he's quarantining, we're disinfecting our house, wearing masks in the house, he's wearing a mask, and my child, who's 4, went down for a nap. That never happens. He doesn't take naps, ever. Like, he's like an Energizer bunny. So he took a nap, so I was like, oh God, something's happening. So he woke up from the nap, and immediately, almost in the 3 seconds he woke up, he was just burning up. So I checked his temperature, and before I could even finish the reading, which ended up reading at like 102.9, which isn't crazy high, but it's obviously a fever. He just starts vomiting, just like crazy vomiting, and I couldn't calm him, and he was so scared. Finally got him showered, cleaned off. Clearly, I've now been exposed. If I hadn't already been to my husband, and he's just so frantic. But of course, I'm going to take it on the chin. Cleaned him up, calmed him down. Told my husband. He came out, helped me, and probably like not less than 20 minutes after that, Grayson starts screaming like a banshee again, just screaming like at the top of his lungs, and it sounds like it's in pain. And I pick him up, and he just vomits all over me. So we call the pediatrician. I give him a test while my husband's calling the pediatrician. He says, hey, if he vomits, the pediatrician says, hey, if he vomits again, go ahead and take him to the hospital. And I went ahead and tested him for COVID. He, of course, bright red line, 2 lines, test positive, no problem. He's got COVID. So we were like, okay, let's try to give him some water. He vomits again. Ended up taking him to the children's hospital. They said, hey, we're just going to have to keep the vomiting down. And COVID manifested differently in him. Like, it wasn't this respiratory cold. It was like a stomach virus. And they told us that that's how it can manifest in kids, which was something I never really knew of and I thought was kind of rare. So we were watching him for, all the horrible things we read about and saw on the news for like 2 years, and we're scared out of our minds. And probably called the doctors at least 10 more times. Called my brother, who's a pharmacist. My parents are nurses. Thank God everybody's on the phone with us. And we were the people that, you know, were scared of getting this virus, like super, super scared of it, and tried to avoid it at all costs. Not for us so much, me because I'm pregnant, obviously, but we thought we would probably fare fairly well. But we weren't sure about Grayson. Like, we just weren't sure about a 4-year-old that's not vaccinated. And we did see all the horror stories, and they always say most kids do really well. And I really hate that word most, because, like, what the fuck? Most kids? So, like, this, like, other, like, this portion that don't do really well just don't matter. So yeah, that's kind of scary, and I won't get political about it, but I have thoughts on that. Long story short, like clockwork, it was like textbook symptoms: fever, nausea, headaches, muscle aches, fatigue, nausea that would come in waves, nausea that was exacerbated by heat. And my husband and I both felt the same symptoms. And then right now, loss of taste buds and smell. Like, I can't smell anything. I've stuck my nose in laundry detergent trying to smell it, and there's nothing. But it seems like we've lived through it. But being pregnant, I was really scared. My baby continued to kick inside me. I coughed crazy coughing, mostly at nighttime. And that always kind of freaks you out, because you don't know. I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what that's doing, or if it's doing anything to my child. It doesn't seem to. She seems to be moving. But I did read a lot of horror stories about placental abruption and, you know, babies being born in stillbirth and things like that. So you're really scared. And I know you shouldn't Google. I know that. But you do, because it's like a source of information when your mind is like trying to make sense of what just happened to you. And you really tried hard not to pick any fights with the universe. And so, but coming out of it, like, I'm on day 4 now, because I ended up testing positive a day after Grayson, which was the day after my husband. He's on day 6. He feels a lot better. He still has some fatigue, comes in and out, and he does vape. He was like a lifetime smoker, plus then he switched to vaping about 10 years ago. So he was really scared, but he did okay. He's young and doesn't have any underlying conditions that we're aware of. Neither do I. And Grayson did really well. He probably took it harder than, like, he didn't get this respiratory cold. He got this stomach virus, and the pediatrician basically explained, like, COVID can manifest in this area, or it can manifest in your stomach area. And for him, it manifested in his gut, basically. And so we just had to deal with the nausea, the vomiting, the not eating. He didn't have diarrhea. He just had tummy aches and stomach pain. And he's tired. He's really, like, he was an Energizer bunny that loves to run around the house, and you can calm him. But now he really, for days, has just wanted to lay there, and it's just been heartbreaking to see. But he's starting to perk up and play with us more and interact with us a lot more, eating chocolate again. But I wanted to do this video for anybody that might watch it that cared about, like, COVID and pregnancy, and then your whole entire family having it at the same time, or at least, like, back to back to back, and what that was like. For us, we ended up, like, trading off resting time. Like, he would monitor Grayson, like, we would just take watch. Like, I would sleep a portion of the time to try and feel better, and then he would sleep a portion of the time. And then when I was feeling really bad, my husband would watch me and make sure that I was okay. And he would watch the baby and make sure that he's okay, and vice versa. The next day he would feel really bad, and I would trade off and do the same thing. So, and then we just disinfected our house and aired it out and cranked up the air so we could just open all the windows and air everything out, and buy massive amounts of disinfecting everything, laundry disinfector, you name it, just because we want our house to feel clean again. And it doesn't when your whole family's sick. It just doesn't feel clean. And washing sheets and throwing things out, and we're like, you know, that's kind of where we landed. But we feel lucky. We know, you know, it's not a joke that I think, like, you know, people that have problems or obesity or health conditions, like, it's not something fun to deal with. It's you know, 1 million people died, and we feel just super blessed that we're okay. At least right now we feel okay, and we don't seem to have any, like, major issues. But it did beat us up. Like,